Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of the Bright Now podcast. We're recording this on Tuesday, January 30th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. My name's Dash, and I am the Bill Lambier to my Bruce Bowen, the guy who stays up every night to watch Conan. TJ, how are you doing today, brother? And what are we yapping about?
Is Conan even on TV anymore?
He's not. It's more of a pastime. Everybody know.
Back in the day, no, I was known to throw on some Conan back in the day. You
guys look similar.
That's a good one. That's so funny. End the pod. Fuck this episode's over.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, got a great one coming at you guys today. Starting it off with the Suns blowing it versus the Magic late. Kind of a rough loss there. I don't even know if that counts as blowing it late. They blew it pretty early. Got another one where we are able to hang on for dear life against the Heat. And then we're going to be breaking down some broader NBA issues, but we'll get there when we get there. So starting it off with this Magic game, the Suns get the win 113-98. So Booker continuing his hot streak, 44 points. It's kind of sad how used to we are of Booker putting up these high-scoring games and losses. That's probably just like for the last decade of Suns fans, it feels like that's pretty consistent. He was 17 for 26, only took 2 3-pointers, which is for a 44-point game to only have to go 1 for 2 from the 3-point line is kind of crazy. Didn't get much help, though, from anywhere else. KD with only 15 points, Beal with 9. So what were kind of your takes? Booker was coming off a couple of really hot games already. They're showing up, they're throwing stats up in the Heat game later about his 150 points in a 3-game stretch and how it's one of the highest field goal percentages ever. So kind of what were your takeaways from the Stars standpoint with the Magic?
For the Stars standpoint, I mean, to keep it 100% honest with you, TJ, I watched the game, but I really don't even care about the first 3 quarters. And I know you asked about the Stars, and it kind of correlates with this, but that fourth quarter was absolutely abysmal. I mean, I do want to talk about how, the 8 minutes without a field goal made in the fourth quarter. I mean, that is some Jimmy Junior High bullshit, just flat out. Stole that line from our high school coach right there. But I wasn't impressed from what I saw towards the end of the stretch right there, and it's been a continuous issue that we've seen. And that's why it's hard for me to even talk about like what else happened in the game or how the Stars performed because, Booker got his points off. But when it matters in these fourth quarters, we continue to see this team to flop. And when we look at the next game, and not to get ahead of ourselves, but we lost against the Miami Heat in the fourth quarter. Ended up winning the game, though, as a whole. But, man, I am just not impressed with this fourth quarter performance. And Kevin Durant, I obviously love the guy, averaging 28 points this year, but it was weird at points when, I don't know if you noticed that, Jonathan "Maga" Isaac went ahead and put some pressure on KD and forced a big-time turnover on the dude towards the start of that fourth quarter. It really felt like it set the tone. Also, I want to mention in that atrocious Eric Gordon inbounds pass in the fourth quarter. Did you see any of those specific plays?
I can't, not off the top of my head, I don't remember, but I think that's just because my brain's just muddied with so many bad Eric Gordon passes this year that I can't necessarily pick out the one that you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I understand. It was one of the start of the fourth quarter. He went ahead and tried to hand the ball into KBD.
Oh, the one, yes, the one that people are posting. Yeah, the one people are posting. Yeah, no, that's awful. It's just that's the problem where it's not it. It seems like our biggest issues when it comes to the fourth aren't even basketball related. It's like mentality and our game planning and the way that like other teams have to be making adjustments to play against us. And we're so predictable when it comes down to the fourth quarter in terms of just it's going to one guy, probably gonna just if once Booker, Beal, or Durant touches it in the half court, nobody else is probably gonna touch it. And you gave the credit to Booker for putting up those points. I did as well. Only 2 of them came in the fourth quarter. I mean, he's 0 for 4 from the field. And I don't even think to understand the gravity of it, like we lost the fourth 31-13. Like that is pure blood. 13 points in a single quarter in the NBA. You play 12 minutes. Like it's just kind of very disheartening for where we thought this team was at. And you do have to give credit to the Magic for being so disciplined, especially as a young team. Like we had 22 turnovers and they only had 7. Like they're supposed to be the guys that are up and coming and just kind of herky-jerky flinging stuff up at the rim. But no, they move as a unit specifically on defense. And, they're the 6th best defense in the league by defensive rating. They have the 3rd most steals per game, which lines up with kind of what we saw today and what we've seen all season with the Suns, specifically in the fourth. But Like, we start the game off 37-26 after the first quarter, and the rest of the way it's 61-87. So that's a 26-point difference after that first quarter. Like, it's a tough road trip. It's our longest road trip of the year, but it's going to be damn near impossible to win if KD and Beal are going to play below average.
Yeah, 100% agree. And something that you touched on earlier was the discipline of this Magic team. The combination of the intensity and the discipline that they have is really going to get them. One of my predictions is I think that the Magic are going to go on a nice little run in the second half of the season. But that's just something that the Phoenix Suns are very inconsistent with. When we're on our highs, we're riding high. You see Beal coming out there, dapping people up, getting people hype, Nurk chest bumping with people. But when it's low, it seems like that vocal leader might still be an issue for this team. As much as I love Kevin Durant and Devin Booker as much as the next guy, the vocal leadership on this team is kind of lacking. I mean, you even look at guys like Grayson Allen, who's performing at a high rate, but he's a little bit younger than those guys. I think so. Grayson was kind of old coming out of college, but he's not the vocal type either. He's a put his head down, get his nose dirty. And I also did want to talk about the threes as a whole in this game. The Suns are shooting like hot garbage from behind the arc. But the thing that pissed me off is we're just not taking them. We went 4 for 14 from three, and there's layers to this. I mean, the Orlando Magic are they're literally the worst three-point shooting team in the league this year. So, TJ, how many times have we talked about how much better we are when we actually take threes? Like, I know they weren't necessarily going in, but are you under the same philosophy? You got to shoot your way out of a slump like that, especially with only 14 threes taken?
100%. That was good. That was going to be my next point, was like, we shot 14 threes. And then my initial thought was, okay, well, like the Magic, good defense. They're built around not allowing as many 3-point attempts as their counterparts across the league. But so they allow the fourth least attempts from 3-point range, but it's still 32.5 per game.
Yeah.
Like it's not fucking 14. I promise 14. You that. 14 is not ever going to cut it. And 4 for 14, whatever. Obviously, a very bad percentage, not good, less than 25%. But you can't shoot better from three if you don't start actually shooting more threes. And it's just, I don't understand what the game plan is there, or what the idea is. If we just kind of get sucked into those mid-range shots because we think that the defense is funneling you there, and if the defense wants you to shoot that shot, you probably shouldn't shoot that shot. Like just take a step out. We have an elite 3-point shooting team.
Flat out. And it kind of goes back to something I want to do a little roundabout here. Talking about the energy of these two teams. I'm not sure if you saw, but Jamal Mosley, he's a guy that comes in with energy. And it feels like that was something that got them the win in this game. And not to be that guy that, come on, guys, if we listen to Coach, we'll get this. But, like, it really was a moment where Jamal Mosley was out there on the side just going apeshit and just getting these guys fired up.
And we got Vanilla Vogel over there. Just brings no energy or intensity. He's just kind of like the cool guy you talk to at the water cooler at the office.
Joe Gatto from Practical Jokers is not cutting it.
Exactly. And another part that goes hand in hand with the attitudes of these two teams, the Suns had 19 assists, the Magic had 30, right? Yeah. That's another huge part of like the playing togetherness. And I don't want to say, the Magic shouldn't be able to, no matter how good of a defense they are, they shouldn't be able to dictate how we're going to play by that much. And that was a huge part of it. We shot very poorly from the free throw line as well, 12 for 21, and like 4 for 14, like we just mentioned. Like that's definitely not going to cut it. We talked about the mentality thing and not having the vocal leader. It does seem like we can just get bogged down mentally at points. Like, are we sure KD doesn't get pissed off when he doesn't touch it enough? Like, only 1 field goal attempt in the first quarter. He had 8 in this entire game. I don't know if he's thinking, hey, let me just take my night off. Book's clearly hot. He's got 44 points. But, damn, he can't just be floating in and out of games. Like, we need him active.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, us only scoring 98 points, that goes a lot into, KD's hands at all. I mean, it goes into his hands a lot, too, because, how many teams are winning games scoring 98 points in this league? I don't think I've seen it this all year. I mean,
not that I could think of. And absolutely. Plus, with KD, I mean, 7 turnovers definitely doesn't help. So that's part of the reason. It just doesn't compute, man.
Yeah, and it's just a lack of consistency. And speaking of lack of consistency, I mean, we go into this next game. Suns beat the Miami Heat 118-105. This was just a completely different energy, just energy switch. Flip that shit on because the bench came out here with some firepower right out the gate. And this was a very enjoyable experience for a guy who is a closeted Drew Eubanks fan. I mean, as a Suns fan, I'm out in the open. But deep down, I love me some Drew Eubanks. I mean, Eric Gordon pours in with a team high of 23 points. He had the team high. Josh Okogie had hustle plays that led to his, famous pump fake in the paint to convert an and one. Love having a game where just, one of the big three don't have to drop 40-plus points and can still be dominating a team by 20, damn near the whole game. What were some takeaways for you?
Yeah, that was my first thing. Up 13 in the first half with the, like you said, huge thanks to Eubanks and Gordon with just coming in like that. It was like you said, a team effort in this one, much more balanced scoring and just shot attempts as a whole. The big three all took 9 shots in that first half. Gordon took 9 himself as well. So it's just a much more balanced attack, much less predictable. And then like the third quarter, which is kind of a continuation of that, but just almost on steroids because they come out and win that quarter by 13 again. So it just and coming out with a strong third quarter, like this play, and anybody that's played at any level competitively kind of understands this, that how important starting the third quarter strong is. Like you come out of halftime, you can give yourself a cushion early and really just kind of like punch a team in the mouth, It really can just kind of set the tone for how the rest of that game is going to go. And like you just had time to make adjustments and figure out how you're going to attack purposefully. Either, hey, this was working really well in the first half, or hey, this wasn't working at all. We need to go here and try to attack them this way instead. So that can really just like set the tone and give you good energy the rest of the way, which was part of the reason why the fourth quarter was so disappointing in this one. I mean, just before we get onto that kind of struggle, like in that third quarter, we had a ton of great plays. Like Booker leads the way. He has 12 points in that quarter. He had a crazy tough 3 that should have been an and one. Eric Gordon's knocking down a couple of threes. Beal with some athletic drives to the rim. I mean, Okogie banked in a 3. Like when you make 6 threes in a quarter, like that's beautiful when you can go up 38-25. But then we see what happened in the fourth, and it just kind of disheartens you all again.
Yeah, let's stay on track with the third quarter then. There's 2 points I want to hit on with you there. It feels like, and maybe just because we're Suns homers, but I feel like I've seen a lot of times where Devin Booker is kind of getting undercut in those threes, and guys are just landing in his space underneath, and they're not really calling it. Really pisses me off. You see a lot of guys in the league that are getting those calls, and I feel like Devin Booker has kind of earned that. I mean, I know he's still considered young, but he's an NBA veteran up to this point. The 26-year-old has been giving the league buckets for years and years now, and I don't think that endangering the health of our star. And it's not necessarily a James Harden kick out your feet and land on somebody intentionally. A lot of these plays are directly underneath Book's feet and just coming down, collapsing. No rolled ankles, thank God. But we know he's not, he's not made of titanium. This man is this man has had a history of having some injuries, especially with the lower extremities of his body. And the second thing, love that you mentioned Josh Okogie's threes. He hit one in the first half, and I was trying really hard to not tweet from our Bright Now account, Josh Okogie hitting threes is better than sex. I was really trying not to, because when Josh Okogie is hitting threes, it makes me feel so much better. There was a stretch there where he wasn't, I think he went 0 for like 14 in his last 14 attempts. And, it's really disheartening to see our boy out there on the 3-point line wide open and just just kind of doing the half pump fake. Like, oh, I don't know. So really happy to see that. Is there anything else from the third quarter you want to touch on, or do you want to go on to our fourth quarter kind of fall off?
No, I'm ready to touch on the fall off because it was a rough one. We end up losing the fourth, 31-18. So lose by 13. Obviously, we end up winning the game by 13 as well. So just 13's all over the place, I guess. But really, like the issue was, you see the score at the end of the third, and you're thinking, okay, maybe this is finally the night where we can extend the lead early and we can give Book, Beal, and Durant like the rest of the fourth quarter off and just kind of let them run it out. And that just doesn't happen. Booker scores 2 points, KD with 6, Beal with 3, except they all had 10. Book had 10 minutes, and then the other two played the entire fourth quarter. Beal and Book
with damn near 41 to 40 minutes.
Exactly. Book and Beal are a minus 13 in that quarter. Book's a minus 5. Like, it was very disappointing. The body language in that quarter was just atrocious. Like, the announcing team was talking about it the whole time. Oh, and sadly, this is the part that I should tell you. Since I'm out of market with the NBA, they were on NBA TV that night, so I get stuck with the NBA TV footage and I can't watch the league local broadcast. I was literally like, especially when I saw that tweet and I was like, damn, I can't even tell him yet. I just need to wait. I was like, oh man.
For those who are wondering, TJ's favorite player is Amari Stoudemire, and he was announcing last night. And I thought for sure he was watching, but I know that's disheartening. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was so sad because I'm just stuck listening to Joel Anthony talk shit about how the Suns just look like depressed out there and have no energy and look like they just got, they were just like hanging on for dear life because they basically were. I mean, the Heat shot 62% from three with 5 makes, 10 for 17 overall. And the weirdest part, it wasn't even Bam and Jimmy that were really doing it. It was a group effort from them as well. Bam with only 6 points in that quarter. Jim only had 1 shot with a couple of free throws. Just a really odd finish to a game that should have been just a really solid closeout, strong performance.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And I mean, I kind of do want to go into the game as a whole though, and just talk about the Miami Heat just for a second. Are you okay talking about that?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leading to too.
Man, you've been saying it since the beginning of the year. I might be leaning over on your side now. The Miami Heat team looks kind of bad. I was personally a big advocate for them to grab Scary Terry Rozier, but it has not looked like it's made sense up to this point at all. I mean, we saw a mediocre Bam game, as you already said. You do see Jimmy go ahead and get 26 points on 12 shots. A guy we blatantly see just turn down opportunities to go ahead and score. But he did so at an efficient rate this game. He went a cool 10 for 10 for the free throws. But, man, this team does not look good. And I was going against you when you were talking about the Kevin Love minutes. But when I saw his old ass out there, I was like, oh, he's looking old. So I'm not sure where this team is going to go. I think they're on like a 7-game losing streak, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I thought that this game made it 8, but keep going. I'll pull that up.
No, I think you're right. It's just, I'm still not going to take them out of the consideration for what they can do in the playoffs. Every year that I've personally doubted them, they went ahead and proved me wrong. So, I mean, they've earned all the respect in the world from me. As long as Jimmy Butler and Spoelstra are on that team, I'm going to have to go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. You were right, by the way. It was 7. They are tied for the Knicks are on a 7-game win streak, and the Heat are on a 7-game losing streak. So that dropped them in the standings, I mean, considerably, right? I don't want to totally scoff at. I know I've been, the Heat aren't title contenders. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say either. Like, they are a playoff team in my mind. But so it is good to get that playoff team, especially like all the buzz around the Terry Rozier trade and talking about them is really vaulting them to a next higher level. It's just nice to kind of take care of business. And we did dominate. Like, we were up 28 points at one point. Against the Heat still have a really solid defense, and we only had 8 turnovers to 13 for them. A lot of those they kind of gifted to us with some really sloppy passing. But you're right, I don't see it there with the Heat. We dominated them in the paint, 46 points to 32 for them. So I don't know where they go from there, especially with the amount of games that Jimmy misses in the regular season. Like he's been kind of the face of people not caring about the 65 game mark, right? Him and Embiid are just sitting up there on the throne. And apparently games played is analytics now. Fucking DeMarcus Cousins.
DeMarcus Cousins.
Are technical fouls and missed playoffs games analytics too?
Those are advanced analytics, yeah.
Oh, okay. And he likes those ones though. Nobody loves missing the playoffs more than DeMarcus Cousins.
I'm fucking dead. Yeah, no, just to wrap up, just kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying, the Suns did take care of business, especially when the Heat went into that famous zone. It felt like they're trying to switch it up because we are kind of getting on some momentum, and there's absolutely nothing they could do to stop it. I mean, it's like the space.
It's like Jadakiss said, man, the 2-3 ain't working on me. They got to go, man. That's how it goes.
I think that's a perfect transition into getting off to the Suns and talking about the major league news and something that's been popping up on my feed and on, there's still some old heads that watch our podcast that do watch ESPN. And I kind of want to talk about it. I mean, the main question here, TJ, is has offense gone too far? And there's been a ton of dialogue around the recent explosive games that we've seen from these offensive maestros in the league. The first one, and probably everybody's least favorite, the Karl Anthony Towns, who scored 62 points in a loss against the Charlotte Hornets. Secondly, we had the same night until a 70-point game from Joel Embiid against a rookie, Victor Wembanyama, who looked like he weighed 120 pounds soaking wet. Then 4 days later, we see Devin Booker go ahead and absolutely spaz for a cool 60-point loss against the Indiana Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton, not to mention. And then finally, the Luka magnum opus performance, a 73-point bomb dropped against the Atlanta Hawks. So, TJ, before I get off to any of my points, do you think the offense has gone too far in the association?
Hell no. Come on. The way you framed it, like I understand it, where it's like, have we leaned too far into the offense and have we made too many rule changes to kind of help the offense succeed? Which I do partially agree with that some of the defensive rules, like defenders just in some instances are getting called for really ticky-tack stuff. And my biggest issue is that it's just inconsistent across the league based on like the way certain guys are called versus others. But in terms of like the defense being worse now, I just think that's incorrect and just it's just kind of an easy criticism for a sport that people probably aren't actually locked in night to night on. Yeah. So I did go through and try to like compare it to history to kind of see how this season's different. And so the first thing when you think about high scoring is like the pace of play. And so going back to like the 3-point line era, this season is only the 14th fastest pace ever. And the top 10 are all in like the late 70s and 80s when people claim that like defense was at the best. And the funny thing is like I feel like the slower pace is honestly evidence of more defense being played. Like there's a reason the All-Star game has such a high score, and it's because they play at such a high pace where it's just dribble down and shoot, just back and forth, like very, very, very quickly. And that's basically the equivalent of no defense being played. So we aren't seeing that. We're seeing there's plenty of years where teams have played much faster than this team. The biggest difference really is the effective field goal percentage. It's at an all-time high. Guys are just making better shots at a higher rate against honestly more consistent defense, I would say, based on those pace numbers. And so that's where I really think it comes down to is just the level of shot making and the amount that we actually know about the game. And in terms of, hey, 3-pointers are worth more than 2-pointers, especially when you're going to shoot some long jumper. So like the layups and threes revolution has just seen scoring boom, but it still isn't to the level, it's nowhere near the level of those like early, like those Wilt Chamberlain 60s, seasons where he's averaging 50 exactly, where it's just the pace was ludicrous. Like if you go pace by decade, it's fine. It's on the way back up from where it was in the 2000s, but it's still below what it was in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then if we want to talk about practicality, as you were talking about with the 3-point era, I mean, if you just think about it logically, it's a lot harder to defend people when they're able to shoot deep threes. I mean, even talking about a guy, Eric Gordon, he's not towing up on that line. He's going to shoot you some deep bombs. But we're seeing guys around the league all able to make these deep 3-pointers, and it just makes it harder. There's a lot more ground to cover just as a whole. Helping out on defense is going to go ahead and, create opportunities at a way easier, at a better rate. And just like you said, people are more talented and able to hit higher quality shots. I did want to cover it. I know you want to talk about it from that angle, but I kind of want to talk about the media coverage side of it, just because me and you are technically part of this new age of media. And as we see the same group of individuals writing hard for Embiid and talking about like how impressed they were with this type of showing from dude, the dialogue went to how bad the Atlanta Hawks defense was, though, when they brought up Luka Doncic had done his 73-point performance. And I'm not here to go full Tom McDonald mode over here and say the whites are being treated badly, like we're getting the negative coverage. Like I'm not going to be a weirdo, but there was a few things that made it strange, and some of the instances was there was a segment with Bob Myers, who I like a lot most of the time. Bob Myers, and then our guys like Mike Wilbon, Woj, and then your boy Stephen A. Smith. They all discussed the results of the Atlanta versus Dallas game, and they're all saying the same things like, these foul calls are just getting out of control. Nobody wants to play a lick of defense on the court. This kind of stuff is going to ruin the league. But then we look at the segment after the Embiid day, and you hear things like, this is one of the greatest scoring performances of all time, absolute complete dominance. And when you just go over the stats part of it, we see that Embiid shot 7 more free throws than Luka, 23-16. We didn't see that Luka had hit 8 3-pointers compared to Embiid's. I mean, is that what's making people, pissed off? Does that make it any less dominant that he's hitting 3-pointers compared to, Embiid only hitting 1? And then my last number for this was that this Hawks team is 2 points worse in defensive rating to the Hawks. So not like super far off. They're literally separated by 2 spots in the rankings. And then we look at the eye test, and I'm not going to sit here and say the Hawks played the best defense in the world, but I mean, damn, like Luka was just hitting magical stuff. I mean, he had the baseline fadeaways, the step back threes, the pump fake sending dudes flying, the and ones. Jalen Johnson was trying his damnedest, like I promise you. And me and you had talked about it on the phone, and it's what I always tell people when they want to come up to me and just talk about, oh, Dash, what do you think about like the defense is just completely gone? Or when Paul Pierce is like, I miss when the NBA played defense. And it's like how JJ Redick says, do you really think dudes aren't trying on defense? Like the dudes who have the most competitive people in the world, absolute psychopaths, they don't care if they get scored on every single time. Guys who are trying to get contract worth millions don't care about that kind of stuff. Get the hell out of here. I mean, you can't put like Trae Young and Harden and Luka in the same conversation because obviously, they don't play defense just objectively. But it's because they're so ball dominant. It's just two different things. Everybody wants to loop in everybody together. And I truly just think it's just like your take. People are just hitting shots at a higher rate and are just flat out better now than they were before.
Yeah, and no, I know exactly why Stephen A. specifically said that this Luka performance wasn't meaningful and that it was all about the defense. Like, I know exactly why it happened. Because there was one Twitter clip that went fairly viral of Luka driving to the lane against the Hawks, and it was very lazy defense and kind of people running away. But it was much more of like hand-pointing defense where it's like, no, you're supposed to help. No, you're supposed to help, which is bad defense, whatever. But that was the clip that was going around, and I guarantee you that's the only part of the game that Stephen A. Smith watched. And that's why he comes on and says that, because he just needs the clicks and the takes. Like, we all know Stephen A. doesn't watch the games. Like, that's kind of his whole thing at this point in his career. Like, we just know that about him, with all due respect. So I just think that part of it is for sure. Obviously, there are guys that don't play defense as good, but those are the guys that already have, $30, $40 million contracts. Their face, hanging up in the airport as you land in that city. Like, yeah, Trae Young isn't a very good defender. James Harden's not a good defender. Luka is a really bad defender. He's like bad. Just straight up. And I think we're starting to see a little bit with the Luka thing too. It's just he's finally reaching the place in his career where it's, hey, what are you going to do for me now? Like, hey, it was really fun. You were Rookie of the Year. You've been awesome, generational, ball-dominant guy. When are you going to really the conference? He did go to the conference finals once. When are we going to see anything close to that again? So that's part of the reason I think they're getting that. But that doesn't even fit the reason with Embiid, because Embiid's haven't got that same monkey on his back right now. So yeah, it just is kind of a generational thing of just older generations wanting to crap on the new one. We see it across all sports. We see it across all aspects and walks of life, jobs, politics, home life, politics, everything. The new people they just have it wrong. We had it right when I was between the ages of 15 and 25. That's there's no other reason I want to go back to that time in my life. It's just because we were right at everything. And also my other piece of it is, why I think guys thought that defense was better back in the day? Is because they were watching games on like a 5x7 box. That was blurry as shit. You couldn't see anything. The score covered up half of stuff that was going on. And then now we have HD TVs, 85-inch screen, whatever, and you can see every little detail. And it's like every missed rotation, and you just fucking start shaking. But it's really because you just couldn't see the bad boy Pistons, dude.
Yeah, flat out. I think that might be the realest response to any of them. It really just does piss me off. Because just like how you said, going back to the whole Stephen A. not watching it, and that specific clip, that was everywhere. That was on Twitter. It was on whatever social media platform you guys want to use. But if you go and watch, shout out to the High Low. They are very, very cool website. It shows you every possession of Luka, and man, like I said, he was hitting tough-ass shots, and Jalen Johnson was trying his ass off, hand up in the air, bumping, like getting through. And it just, at the end of the day, it just optically doesn't look as cool as Embiid just because he's hitting those jumpers, dunking the ball wherever he's at. But, Luka likes to slow it down. He has a lot of those slow, that last step, or just as slow as possible, sending dudes flying up in the air. And, fuck, man, you go ahead and try to guard it. Right. He's trying to beat his shit, but it's just Luka is so smart, so intelligent with the ball, and it's just really silly to me that the media is, nothing new. They're going ahead and just doing whatever it is for clicks. But I thought that the conversation was getting out there. It was getting to too much. But yeah, any other final thoughts on the Suns as a whole? Any of this discourse on the media right now?
That's it. I guess the next time we'll talk, I will have just come back from the Suns-Hawks game on this Friday, February 2nd. So probably, post some flicks from that, see what's up. Maybe do a little body language doctor assessment and see what's going on with this squad.
Hell yeah, I like to hear it. Well, all right, thank you guys so much for watching episode, 22 of the Bright Now podcast. Woo. God, we're getting up there, but thank you again so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. And as always, y'all have a phenomenal rest of your day.